My boss threatened my husband not to divorce me after we spent a night together at a corporate party. This is crazy. I've never been this confused and scared in my entire life. I'm literally in a state where I don't even know what to do. I got myself into a big mess and I really don't know how to fix this. My marriage is at stake here and everything is crumbling right in front of me. I cheated on my husband with my boss at a corporate party. I don't even want to start by putting the blame on alcohol. Yes, we both had drinks, but it wasn't much that could make us drunk and not have control over ourselves. I was the one that cheated, but it's my husband that's getting threatened by my affair partner. I feel ashamed and disgusted right now. Apparently, my boss is threatening my husband not to divorce me because of my infidelity with him. His threats are very intimidating, and I feel so scared for my husband. He is a good man, and he doesn't deserve to be treated that way. To make matters even worse, my husband is not even intimidated by all these threats. Right now, we're not living under the same roof. I had to run away because the house was becoming too heated and sophisticated for me. One more day with Justin is like living with the devil. He isn't the man I knew, or rather the man I thought he was. He has turned into a ruthless psycho that is not ready to spare anyone that dares to offend him. To say that I'm in a very big problem is an understatement. I'm currently in a dilapidated state. My life is falling apart, guys. Before I continue, I want to briefly introduce myself. My name is Pia. I'm 25 years old. The name of my husband is Justin. He is 29 years old. Justin and I have been together for the past 3 years. But as it seems now, we're currently going through a divorce. I regret everything so much that I wish there is a way I could fix this. I allowed myself to be carried away by the feeling of the moment. Justin, my husband, is a very nice and caring man. He didn't deserve this, and I just hope he can have mercy on me. My husband and I met a few years ago, and we were so much in love. I didn't really know what actually happened, but I fell out of love with him 2 years after we got married. Despite his gentle and soft-hearted nature, I still cheated on him. Justin is really a caring man, and he didn't deserve what I did. I didn't only cheat on him, he also got threatened by my affair partner. I know you all would actually blame me and say nasty things, but it's fine, I'm ready for anything.
Ned!
So guys, like I said earlier, things started falling out of place between me and my husband, Justin. I didn't know when it got to that point, but it was not intentional. Sometimes I do get pissed by some of the kind attitude he displays. No, guys, don't get me wrong. He didn't actually do anything bad. If at all he did, it wasn't something that could make anyone be that mad for long. The most annoying part of it is that any woman that was to be in my position wouldn't see it as a big deal because of the kind of person my husband is. But I find a lot of fault with anything he did. This happens when you no longer feel the same way with your partner like you did at the beginning of your love story. Though Justin and I relationship wasn't a love story, but it was something that was beautiful at the beginning, but here we're now. I no longer feel like it anymore. Don't worry, guys, I will tell you all how it all started. Everything started when I got employed at my workplace. I work as a secretary at a company. After Justin and I got married, I struggled to get a job. Feeding or clothing wasn't a problem to me because my husband provided everything. He didn't buy the idea of me working. So long he was working and was earning well, he didn't see the need for me to get a job. But I didn't want to be idle or something. I needed to make something with my life. During those times I didn't have a job, I was not nagging or taking it out on Justin. He helped me seek a job. It was all thanks to him that I got this job. But I won't bore you all about how that happened and how I got the job. Moving on, guys, after what seemed like forever to get a job, I finally got one. I was so excited that I was finally going to work. Justin supported me during those moments. However, things started to change a few months later after I started working. Well, to me, actually, I don't know about my husband. What changed for me was the overwhelming nature of the job. Maybe it was because I was employed as a secretary. I did most of the job assigned to me, and I was commended by my boss on several occasions. My boss's name is Martins. He is the CEO of the company I worked for. Sometimes Martins do propose to treat me to either lunch or dinner for a job well done, but I often decline the offer. At that time, I wasn't ready to start going out with my boss or to even be seen with him in public outside the workplace. I didn't want my coworkers to have the impression of me dating the boss. There were several occasions where Martins complimented my dressings. Sometimes he purposely gave me work so as to stay late at the office with him. He made several advances to me, but I didn't have any at all. I made it clear to him about my marital status, but he wasn't buying it. Rather, he told me that there wasn't anything wrong if I went on a date with him. Despite his sweet talking, I didn't mind all that he said. I was focused on doing my job and at the same time ignoring Martins. So guys, there was a day we all were summoned into the boardroom by the boss. It was 5 minutes long. Martins called to let us know about an event that was going to happen about a week from then. He told us to look our best and strictly warned us not to disappoint him because the party was unusual. We all left the room and everyone went back to continue all what they were doing. I got home that day and told Justin about the party, and he didn't stop me from going. Rather told me to be careful, which I assured him I would. So guys, a day to the party, Justin and I got into a heated argument. Apparently he got home late the previous night and kept me worried. When I tried talking to him, he didn't say much and he walked away. I still insisted and followed him upstairs. It was there we got into a quarrel. I was so angry that I didn't talk to him throughout that day. The next day was the party. It was scheduled at 4:00 p.m. that day. We had the day off and didn't go to work. That time, Justin and I were still giving each other our attitudes. When it was time for the party, I got dressed and left. The location of the party was a little bit far from the house. I boarded a cab because I didn't want to drive when going back. The party was a corporate one. You needed an invitation before you could get in. I had taken my invite along with me so as to avoid any embarrassment. When I got there, I was asked to show it before they allowed me in. I got in and everywhere was looking beautiful. Honestly, guys, I haven't been to that kind of gathering before then. But to my co-workers, it was their 5th time because they do come there on several occasions. While I was busy admiring the whole place, I got a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see who it was. Guys, it was Martins, my boss. Martins appeared handsomely dressed. I quickly distracted myself from admiring him so it wouldn't notice. Martins, as usual, complimented my dressing. I smiled and also complimented his dressing. Martins then held my hands and asked me to follow him. We walked up to a couple of people and we changed pleasantries. Not long after, everyone in the party was gathered. The host gave out a speech and everyone clicked glasses afterwards. I won't lie, guys, I really enjoyed myself at the party. The party was to end at 10 p.m. that day, but I ended up going home by 12 a.m. because I wanted to avoid Justin. I planned on getting home that day after I must have slept off. So guys, I was enjoying myself at the party. I took about 2 shots to forget about what had happened between me and Justin. Just when I was about to take the 3rd one, Martins held my hand and told me to stop. I got so angry and I tried dragging my hand from his grip, but then what Martins did next left me surprised. Guess what, guys? Martins pulled me over and kissed me. Yes, guys, he kissed me. We were like that before Martins pulled over. At that point, I was confused as to why he did that. Honestly, I also wanted to kiss him the moment I met him at the party. Martins then held my hands to a room and we spent a few hours together. It was 11:30 p.m. when I woke up. By that time, Martins was not on the bed, he was in the bathroom. A few minutes later, he came out and I felt a little bit ashamed, but Martins told me that everything was okay. We got out of the room and went back to where we had left everybody. But to our greatest surprise, a few people were around and it was the decorators. Everyone must have left early though. So guys, Martins and I then left the hall. Martins dropped me off at my neighborhood before he drove off. I got inside and met Justin fast asleep. Looking at Justin, I felt a bit of guilt because I had just cheated on him with my boss. But then again, I remembered what had happened between me and Martins and it brightened my mood. That made me forget about the argument Justin and I had. I went to the bathroom and freshened up before I joined Justin on the bed. For a few minutes, I found it hard to sleep because I was just thinking about Martins. I thought of how I was going to face him at the office after all what had happened at the party. I became scared and anxious at the same time. A lot of thoughts came to my mind that I was asking myself if after everything he fired me or reported it to my husband. I was in that thought when my phone beeped. It was a text message. I wondered who it was at that time of the night. I took my phone and checked. Guys, it was from Martins. He texted to wish me a good night with a love emoji. Seeing that made me feel better. That confirmed to me that he wasn't all what I was thinking at that moment. I quickly texted back and dropped my phone and slept off. The next day was a Saturday morning. I got up and did the house chores and resumed back to the work I had brought home the previous days to do before the party. Justin also went to hang out with his friends around the neighborhood. I was all left at home that morning. A few hours into my work, Martins called me to check on me. We spoke for a while before he asked me to come meet him at a place not too far from the office. I parked all what I was doing and quickly got dressed and headed out of the house. I tried calling Justin to tell him I was leaving the house, but his lines were switched off. Of course, I wasn't going to tell him that I'm going to hang out with my boss. No, guys, not at all. Just wanted to let him know that I was heading out, but that didn't work out because I wasn't able to reach him. Since he wasn't reachable, I didn't waste too much time before leaving. I got into my car and drove to the address Martins had texted me. It was a 30-minute ride and I got there on time. So guys, when I got there, I called Martins to inform him about my arrival. He then asked me to follow a route that led to a beach. Apparently, Martins wanted us to hang out together on a beach. He planned everything out well. Martins knew that none of his workers could locate this place so easily. That was why he asked me to come here. He knew I wouldn't be comfortable if any of the workers saw us together. I really liked the idea, and I was very happy that he thought about me before choosing the location. The atmosphere was cozy and warm. I loved the sound of the waters. There was background country music, and everywhere was lively. Martins left and went to get us something to eat. I took that opportunity to go into the waters. The feeling was mesmerizing, guys. It was a place that's good to clear one's head if overwhelmed with work or life issues. Not long after, Martins yelled my name and asked me to come over to where he was. He had gotten a good spot for us to stay and listen to the sound of the waters. We sat down and talked about a couple of things. Martins told me about some secrets he hadn't told anyone and also why he was single. Well, according to him, he wasn't ready to settle down prior to that time. We talked about a few things, went into the waters to have some fun, and then we got back home afterwards. I really enjoyed myself that day, and I hope to do that with him during that time. I went home that day and met Justin at home. He had returned a few hours before I got back. After the usual cordial greetings, I went upstairs to freshen up. Not long after, I came out and went down. I met Justin going through my phone. I was surprised as to why he was doing that. I asked him to give me back my phone, but he refused and told me not to take any step further. Justin went through my chats and text messages with my boss. He got so angry and threw my phone to the wall. He pulled me closer and yelled at me. Justin's eyes were burning like fire. I got so scared and tried to pull away, but he twisted my arms and made sure it hurt me so bad. Justin left home that day and didn't say where he was going. I was in pain due to the way he twisted my arms. I thought of what had just happened and I took my phone to tell Martins that my husband had gotten to know about us. I was really scared of what Justin was going to do the next day. I tried calling him, but his lines were switched off. The next day, I still couldn't reach out to Justin. I was scared, and so I went over to my boss's place. My boss is an influential person. Apparently, my boss and Justin's boss are friends, or rather, were childhood friends. When the matter escalated, I went over to see my boss and told him about Justin's decision to divorce me. That day, my boss assured me he was going to do something about it and not to bother myself. At that moment, I felt a little relieved and hoped that everything was going to be okay. I left my boss's office and went back home. When I got home, I saw Justin's car parked outside. I was scared at first, but I decided to go inside to have a conversation with him. It had been 3 days since he left home after the incident. Guys, I got inside and met Justin seated on the couch. Right in front of him was a divorce papers. I went closer to where he was seated and knelt down in front of him. I bursted into tears and cried, telling him how sorry I was. For like 15 minutes, Justin kept silent and didn't utter anything to me. I didn't stand up either. I was still there hoping he could have a change of mind. Just before I could say anything, Justin stood up and went upstairs. He snubbed me and did as if no one was talking. My husband spent another 15 minutes there. I didn't really understand what he was doing, and I couldn't go there to see it because I was so scared. Guys, you all wouldn't believe what he did next. My husband came out of the room and stood at the balcony upstairs and threw my things down to the sitting room. He messed up my things and even broke some valuables. All our pictures together, Justin threw them out all. I ran from where I was because I didn't want to get hurt. Justin didn't even show any sign of concern. When he was done throwing my things out, he yelled from the balcony to leave his house and take the divorce papers along. I started pleading and told him how sorry I was, but Justin wasn't buying any of that. My husband told me that he gave me 50 seconds to leave his house and didn't want to see me when he came out again. I knew the content of that order. He didn't stutter when he said it. I knew I would be the one to regret it at the end of the day. So guys, I quickly parked all my things and left before he could come outside again. Of course, I didn't take the divorce papers. I had hoped that he was going to change his mind, and also I remembered what my boss told me and I keyed into that. When I left the house, I called a friend of mine and asked if I could hang around for a while. Her name is Tina. She was one of my high school mates. Tina accepted me and told me that I could stay as long as I want. I didn't plan on staying that long, though. I just needed a place to stay for a while to search for everything. I didn't want to inconvenience her. So guys, the next morning I called my boss and told him everything that happened the previous day. Martins asked for us to see at our usual spot, which was a nearby coffee shop not too far from the office. Since my infidelity with my boss came out, I haven't been to work. In fact, my boss gave me a full week to settle everything with my husband and told me to resume anytime I wanted. That was his little way of trying to help me out. I got dressed that morning and went to the coffee shop and waited for him. It took Martin's like an hour before he came. I was so pissed off and mad. At that moment, I was under a lot of pressure. Only I understood what I was going through then. To say that everything overwhelmed me then is an understatement. When Martins came, he saw how I looked and he nodded his self-pity. He was surprised to see me that way. He didn't know the gravity of things then and how overwhelming it was for me. During those times, I was gradually losing my mind. I narrated everything to Martins all over again and bursted into tears. I cried bitterly and told him how badly I want to get back with my husband. Martins held my hands and told me not to cry anymore, that he knew what exactly to do. At that moment, Martins asked me what job my husband does and the name of his workplace. Hearing that from him, I got angry and asked him if that was going to solve the problem. I got so pissed that everyone at the coffee shop started staring at us. I literally pulled out a scene and those that were interested to listen were staring. Martins calmed me down and told me to trust him. He also asked me to tell him where exactly he needed to go. At that moment, I honestly didn't understand what he was up to, but I gave him the details anyway. Martins looked surprised and asked me to say the name of the place again, and asked if it was the right address. I looked at him with anger and told him why wouldn't I know where my husband works or the kind of job he does. Apparently, during the times Martins and I got so close, I didn't disclose anything about my husband. He knew I was married but didn't know Justin. So seeing my boss surprised about where Justin works was something that I was a little bit confused about. I didn't understand what was going on. Just when I wanted to ask if there was any problem, Martins pulled out his phone and called someone, asking if the person on the other end of the call was in the office. Martins quickly hung up and asked that we leave immediately. I was confused and didn't know what was happening at that time. Immediately, I asked Martin what happened and why we were leaving so soon, but he didn't give me any answer. Rather, he held my hand and pulled me from the coffee shop. We got into the car and we drove off to God knows where. During the ride, I kept asking where we were going, but Martins was silent all through. He didn't utter anything or give me any clue of what he was up to. A few minutes later, we got to a place and he parked. It was a 15-minute ride, not too far from the coffee shop. He asked me to come down from the car and follow him. Since he didn't say anything to me throughout the ride, I sat down and didn't make an attempt to stand up. Martins looked at me and then told me to trust him. He got down from the car and went to the front door and opened it for me. I let out a loud hiss and came down from the car. Honestly speaking, guys, I didn't know the place Martins had brought me. All I was thinking at that moment was about my husband. I followed Martins and we got into a compound. The house was so big and orderly decorated. Only a rich man could own this kind of place, I thought to myself. We got inside and we were asked to wait at the visitor's room. A few minutes later, the person we had come to see came out. Mainly looking at the person, I knew I had seen him somewhere but couldn't remember immediately. I kept staring at him until he got seated. I watched him and Martins exchange pleasantries. I was only able to say hi because I was trying to remember the face. The person knew I was not settled and asked if everything was okay. It was then I asked him if we had met before. He bursted into laughter and said that I didn't remember him. I didn't know what to say when he introduced himself. It was then I remembered who he was. Guys, you all wouldn't believe this. He was my husband's boss, Harry. Honestly, guys, I didn't know that my boss and Justin's boss knew each other. It was right there I knew that they were childhood friends. I was so shocked and surprised at the same time. The only time I met my husband's boss was when I went to see my husband at his office. That was when we got married. That was the first and only time that I had encountered Harry. Seeing him again with another man other than my husband made me a little bit ashamed. I felt a sense of guilt and shamefulness. My boss then told Harry everything that happened. Harry didn't seem surprised, and he told me not to bother myself because he would make sure my husband and I will get back together. I asked him how that was going to be possible, but he didn't give me any answer. He just told me to go home and relax. My boss Martins also assured him at that moment. He told me they were going to take care of things. I honestly didn't know what they were up to, and I pleaded with them not to harm Justin. They looked at me and laughed. Harry said no one was going to get hurt and nothing would happen. After a few minutes later, Martins proposed we head back home. We left Harry's place and he dropped me at Tina's place. I told him about Tina and how she offered to help me to stay with her. Martins nodded and told me it was a good idea, and and he came closer and stretched his arms to give me a hug. I declined and told him I wasn't interested. After all, it was because of him that I was in this mess in the first place. I banged the door and left. I was so angry at that moment, and hugging Martin's was the last thing I needed. I just wanted to get back with my husband so badly. I messed up and I wanted to clean up my mess. A few days went by and I didn't hear anything from Martin's or Harry. The waiting also contributed to the pressure. I couldn't even eat anything during that period. Most of the time, Tina had to force me to eat something so as to not fall sick. How would I have been able to eat when I just got sent out of my matrimonial home? My parents would literally kill me if I dared to show up at their house. No responsible parent would advise or support their daughter or sons to cheat on their partners. I have been getting a lot of calls and text messages from my parents, but I'm not ready to return any because I already know what they want to say. I just wanted to settle everything and get back with Justin. 4 days of not getting any feedback from Martin's, I decided to go pay him a visit. The process was taking too long and nothing was happening. I got dressed that morning to go see Martin's. Just when I was about to leave, I got a text message from my husband. I was happy to get a message from him. I thought maybe he wanted to talk to me or tell me to come back home, but I got the opposite of it. Guys, Justin sent me a long message. The content of the message was not appeasing at all. In the text, Justin narrated how his boss threatened to have him fired if he went ahead to divorce me. He also told me how my boss, Martin's, sent some men to come over to the house to beat him up. Rather, he was the one that later taught them a big lesson. He also told me that he would not spare any of them if they tried what they did. Justin did tell me to show my boss and his boss the text he had just sent and would be waiting for them again. Not only that, guys, Justin also told me that he was ready and up to the task for anything. He told me that he had made his decision and no one can change it, not even his boss. To crown it all, Justin called me a shameless woman and called me all manner of names. It was then I realized that Justin was dare serious in having a divorce. I didn't read everything in the text message before a call came in. It was my husband, Justin. I picked the call and started telling him that I knew nothing about the threat. In Justin's mind, I was the one that told Martin's about it. My husband got to know about Martin's and Harry's friendship. He had thought maybe I had planned everything. I tried explaining it to him, but he didn't care to listen. Apparently, he called to ask if I have received the text and also called to tell me about the divorce papers. Justin didn't know where I was living at that time. He didn't care to know, and I didn't expect him to. Since he didn't know my exact location, he sent the divorce papers to the family lawyer to give it to me and have it signed within 2 weeks. At that moment, I was shattered. My marriage crumbled right in front of me. I knew that there was nothing left again. It didn't take Justin a second before he signed the divorce papers. Same way I didn't think about it before I cheated on him with my boss at the corporate party. Before I could say anything to my husband, he hung the call on me. I tried calling it back, but he kept on rejecting the call. After some time, he had it switched off, and then a few days later, Justin blocked my lines, and also blocked me on all social media platforms. After what happened that morning, I couldn't go to Martin's place again. I locked myself inside and cried my eyes out. I made a terrible mistake by cheating on my husband with my boss. My husband turned a cold shoulder towards me and cared less about me. And now he wants to divorce. Guys, I would like you all to tell me what to do about this. Right now, I really need your advice, please. I would be under the comments section. Update. Hi, guys. The last time I asked you all to give me advice on what to do about my husband and I planning on getting a divorce. Well, I'm here to complete my story, and I hope you all would learn something from this. I've read all the messages and opinion advice you all are giving, and honestly, guys, I appreciate them all. I deserve most of the hateful comments, and I truly regret my actions. Hi. So, guys, all efforts to have my husband change his mind went in vain. Right now, as I'm writing this, I'm currently a divorcee. My husband and I have gone our separate ways. My husband developed a strong hatred for me after learning about my infidelity. He doesn't want to see me or have anything to do with me. To make sure that his cruel revenge was well complete, he started dating one of his longtime friends from high school. I won't lie, guys. That part really got me hard. I was so pissed and upset that I didn't know what to do. What I did to my husband was unspeakable, and no man in his right senses would take in his unfaithful wife. My case was different. I didn't cheat on him in that corporate party alone. I also did it secretly and went on several dates with my boss. That was what angered Justin the most. He was so disappointed in me. My husband, whom I thought was a very gentle man, turned into a ruthless psycho. Since I knew him and that we have been married to each other, I haven't seen that ruthless side of him. Guys, y'all need to see it. During our divorce process, we had little contact. Justin looked at me with scorn. It was as if I woke up the beast in him. I couldn't muster the courage to even look at him twice. His eyes were burning as if it was on fire. It was during those times that I knew that I had messed up big time. I turned a gentleman into a ruthless psycho. My husband didn't even want to listen to anything that I had to say. The most important thing was that I cheated on him. Guys, despite the threats that my boss was giving to my husband, Justin didn't relent. He still went ahead to divorce me. Don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not in support of him getting threatened, no. I thought maybe he would have a change of mind, but he didn't. When my boss threatened him that he was going to lose his job if he dared divorce me, Justin wasn't moved at all. Guess what he did? He went to his workplace and gave his boss his resignation letter. Yes, guys, Justin quitted his job. According to him, he would rather quit the job than to take me back. He was done having anything to do with me and didn't want to see me again in his house. So guys, that was how everything turned out. Justin's mind was made up and there was nothing I could do to change it. I noticed that I was gradually losing my mind and I wanted to take care of myself. And so I signed the divorce papers and sent it back to him. I also moved out from Tina's place because she was also trying to find her feet. It's easy living alone and I didn't want to inconvenience her. I got a small apartment and moved in immediately after the divorce. I will be staying here until I finally find something to do. I know you all would be wondering what happened between me and Martin's, right? Well, after the divorce, I went over to his house and asked if I could move in. Martin's bluntly refused and told me to ever call him or look for him again because he doesn't want to have anything to do with me. He had had his fun and there's nothing exciting about me again. He banged the door on me and I left shamelessly. That day I went home and made up my mind to move out from Tina's place. Tina was supportive. She didn't want to leave, but I insisted on moving out. So guys, this is me now. It's been 2 weeks since I have been staying on my own. It isn't really easy here, but I will find my way. Justin has moved on with another lady and they are having their best time in another country. I'm not stalking him. In fact, I wish him the best. This is my story, guys. I hope you all have learned something from this. I have also learned my lesson, and I think life taught me a very big lesson.